in marketing, there's quite a lot of talk about touch points. And you said that you send an email and maybe they don't read it, but maybe they see your company name the first time. So that would be one touch point. Maybe they
Yes.
see one post on Twitter, which is the second touch point. And
Yes.
it depends on the marketing studies, but I think some of them say that you need, for example, 8 touch point before the customer will buy from you. So
Yeah.
I think those are important, and it's a good way of thinking that you need to first just maybe if they see your company's name in social media, then you send them email and they check it quickly that I saw that, and they make a connection. And then maybe
Yes.
when you call, they are like, I know you, you've been there and there.
Mhm.
Maybe they don't know where they saw you, but they know your name, and then they associate that this must be something good because I have heard about it quite many times.
Yes, yes. Actually, it's like that. So the presence on internet is very, very important. I spend a lot of money on branding to have a very nice logo, to have a very nice website, to have a nice recommendations from elite athletes, especially world champions, and so on. It's also very, very important. But yeah, it's very important to invest on these things. But it's also important to try to create a long-term relationship with a potential customer. If they say you no, I'm not interested in your services, maybe the person who is in charge, maybe it's not in 1 year, and other person will replace him, or maybe budget in the federation or wherever is the sports entity has increased or something, they might be interested in that time. So so it's important to create a timeline in the customers and check every 2, 3, 4 months and get some talks with people, and and suddenly from nothing start to create some kind of relationship, right?
Mm.
And in maybe 1 year will be your customer, not for example now, but maybe in 1 year. So it will be your customer. So think in long term also.
Mm.
That's also important.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think in if I bring some marketing terms, I think it's top of mind. So you want to stay top of mind, and this might be just kind of sending maybe an email every 2, 3 months, whatever it is. That, by the way, I was talking with you earlier. At that point, you didn't have money. Let me know if something have changed. Just kind of reminding, even if you don't have anything else, and they might be like, yeah, actually now we have some funding. So it's
Yes.
important to keep your company name in their mind.
Exactly, exactly. Also, it's important to figure out what's the ratio of attempts in relation to how many customers I'm getting. If I, for example, send 1,000 emails and I'm getting, let's say, well, 1,000 is too much, 100 emails and I'm getting 5 customers, okay, that's fine. Then I know that I have to send 1,000 emails to get 50
Mm.
customers, which is actually very good. You can do what you like and have your own job, do, doing your thing, which is the most the best achievement that I made.
Mm. Yeah, and if listeners are interested learning about this more, there's a lot of resources for marketing, and basically the general principles of marketing will work in this kind of thing, like we are talking about marketing for elite athletes or elite teams. So
Mhm.
if we move from the business side to your business idea, the daily monitoring, could you tell more about that?
Yes, sure. So we had the idea of we believe that the enhance of the performance is made on daily decisions. So if you change your routine in you're applying let's say, a high impact training technique, then you will get more and more performance. If you don't do any, or you don't make any change on your daily routine, then probably you will not get better performance. So we were focused on this. How this is working? Well, first, it's very important to get some data from athletes and coaches. So we design a system in which the coaches can design which item they would like to register. And we also integrate third-party applications. So, for example, in some sports, and some coaches like to register heart rate variability or heart rate, basal heart rate, or sleep monitoring. So we use third-party applications that we already have tested, and we know those are working very good, and we integrate into our application. And then they decide which item they would like to register. Like, for example, what's your level of fatigue? What's your mood today? Any observation the athletes want to make. So we collect all this information and then try to make some calculations. So calculations is also very important, and we believe we had to have a customizing calculations. Why? Because some athletes, if you ask, for example, hey, how tired are you today? And some athletes, the highest value that I have seen, it's a 5 from a scale to 0 to 10. And then you start thinking, okay, this is not true. I don't believe that you didn't get very, very tired one day in a season, right? So some athletes are not 100% honest. Some others, yes, they are. So you need to figure out what's happening, and then you need to apply corrections, calculations. Okay. So we customize also the calculations, and we want to give a final data to the coaches. If we, for example, register, let's say, 10 items, and you give 10 data to the coach, then the decision it's complicated, it's tricky, right? So then you need to get all this data and see what's the direction. If you are getting tired, if you are recovering properly. So we give factors, and we do some other kind of analysis, and then we just give one data to the coach. It's everything goes fine, or be careful, or everything goes very, very fine, very well. So simplification, it's very, very important for us, at least in our philosophy. We are in the stage of over information. Everything is measurable. You can get any device, and it gives you 1,000 data per second. And we believe that we need to simplify more things, and to do good interpretations for making better decisions.
And basically you are measuring, for example, fatigue. Is your suggestion then that keep going with this intensity, you can train harder, you need to train less, or what is the kind of the guidance what you give?
Well, it's normal if you're the athlete to get fatigue. That's completely normal. If we, for example, to put an example, we see, for example, heart rate variability is very low. It means let's say, your first thought it's you can be stressed, your body's stressed. But let's say that the athlete's report, he's not fatigued. He has a 4 in a scale from 0 to 10. What do you do? Well, my interpretation is you go ahead. Because both values or both items are not pointing to the same direction, right? If those are not pointing to the same direction, then it's fine. Then you can keep going with your plan. But even if you have a low heart rate variability and high levels of fatigue for one day, it doesn't mean nothing. So
Mm,
you might can have an acute fatigue, but that's normal.
mm,
If you then have 2 or 3 days with the following direction, then you can call the coach and say, hey, this is what is happening.
mm,
So maybe have a deep look or something else. And this is the way we try to work. It also depends a lot on each sport. It's not the same. Cycling, for example, long choice of cycling that tennis is completely different.
mm,
So some tools are working more in some sports than in other ones.
mm. So you said that you are using the third party ones and then you have some own. Is there something that you, if you can choose, is there something you recommend that we should measure these three things, for example?
Yes, you also need to check what's the level in terms of exercise physiology knowledge
Mm,
of the coach or physical coach. If they start to get these things, then you can suggest what will be better for them, what it's easy to interpret. But if the coach already know about this, they can choose. Hey, I'm using this because of from my own experience, I know this is working. Okay, then let's do that, and this is what we will do. So we don't want to impose anything to coaches, but just to have a tool for them to decide better.
mm. Yeah, so you're not suggesting certain things, but going. Which ones do you have your own systems? You use third party and you have some own ones. Which ones do you have?
Well, basically, what our application does is able to, um, let's say, design any register items. It can be, for example, what I mentioned, items in the morning, questionnaire, and so on. But also, you can track your nutrition, for example, or
Mm,
you can track your some matches reports, or
mm,
you can have some recordings to hear before a competition. You can get the protocols before competing or after competing, recovery protocol and so on. So it's actually a basic tool, but we want to integrate everything in one place, and this is what we do.
mm,
Um, about integrations, we do it in the backend, so people will not see it. Coaches and customers just will see the data.
mm,
We want to simplify. We don't want to overwhelm them with thousands of data. We just want them to take care of some indexes and then more or less see what's happening with their athletes.
mm. And so you have one system and you do all the work in the back end. Could you tell a little bit more about how is the system? Where does it run? How much do you need to do manual work? How much was it development for you?
Mhm.
And how
Mhm.
much is it work to kind of run it and then provide for the coaches the best bits?
Yes, actually, there is a lot of manual work. Every time I have a new project, first I have to see what are the needs from the customers and what are the resources we are going to spend. Sometimes it requires a known development. So we work with developers in different system in our application and our backend, and sometimes it doesn't work to develop and it's better to do manual work or to
Mm,
do any other kind of automatization. So it's also important to be aware of the technology and software and other tools you can use for this.
mm. Yeah, and I think it's a good also kind of from the business point of view that usually in the beginning especially it's good to do non-scalable work. So it's much
Yeah.
easier to do it by hand. It might look for the customer that this is like magic, it's automation, but you might be working the night there and doing everything manually. But you can provide for the customer the feel that it works automatically, and then you can see if it's worth to spend like development money to do this. And have you approached like this, that if you have the same thing that's been done with the many customers, then you develop, but other ways you do it by hand?
Yes, exactly. Actually, I started the project with a Excel spreadsheet. I think everyone knows Excel, and if you're a good coach, probably you will have a very good level in Excel. So you can start from that point. But there was a point in which, okay, I cannot offer Excel because it's not let's say professional enough, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I create the application. But yeah, if you have few customers and you're fine doing something manually, then start with that point, and then when your business and your workload starts to increase, it will ask you to do something else, to automate a little bit more, to do something more automatic, and so on. So then you start to look for a strategy to be more efficient.
Hmm.
But yeah, start just manually. It's something good, doable, and cheap, and see how it goes.
Hmm. And when you provide the feedback to the coach, do you visualize it? Is it just a number? Is it for each individual athlete a certain number or a visualization? How do you normally do it?
Well, we check every day all data from athletes and coaches. Yeah, we basically design a strategy, and this is more related with psychology. At the beginning of the project, we talk with the psychology if they are working with one, and then suggest what we can do to, let's say, to lie to the athlete to get the proper information.
Hmm.
So we have 2 3 key points in which we try to lie in the forms we design and so on to the athletes. And we have a system of alarms that we set at the beginning. So when an alarm comes up, and we know something's happening. If we don't do if we don't see anything, then we leave the coach to continue with the plan. But also we check once a month how the training procedure has been in terms of workload, how have been the resting, if their routine, they're doing something wrong that they don't know. So we try to give a third part feedback to to improve and to change a little bit.